Alright guys, good evening and welcome to another Advanced Refrigeration Podcast, Continued E2 training. Today we're going to go over time schedules. So what is a time schedule? A time schedule is in E2 is a scheduling application that can be used for multiple things. To turn on lights, to turn on exhaust fans, to turn off lights, to do resets on valves, controllers. You could use it for all kinds of things which require a time schedule. So I'll show you in terminal mode, and I will show you in the in our ultrasite how to do time schedules today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and bring her into terminal mode. Go ahead and log in. So we're going to add new application. And time schedule. We're going to tell it we want 1. Do we wish to edit? Yes. Okay, so just like everything else, standard first page name, we'll call it okay, you can put your long name in there. Now you have schedule type. So if you hit lookup, you have master or slave. So it could be the master schedule or the slave schedule, depending on how you want it. If you hit the question mark, so same thing, master or slave. So if you come down here, schedule type method, normal. So I'm not going to read off all this. So your types are normal. You have odd days and even days. So you could schedule it to where it only uses odd days. You could schedule it to where it uses even days, or you could schedule it to where it uses all days with normal. So generally what we're going to do is normal. Number of standard events. So you can go 1 to 15. So you could have 15 different scheduled events. Number of date ranges. So you can go 0 to 12. Emergency output, you could have yes or no. In this case, we'll go to yes. And let me hit the cancel button here because it is locked up. So we'll go menu 5. We will go schedules, which is 51. All right. Not really sure why they did that, but it's lovely terminal mode. So KW load, you could assign it a KW load if you're using load shedding. So if you hit the next tab, this is going to be our inputs. So your emergency override, that would be your, if you have an emergency override. Bypass to off, bypass to on would be if you had like a switch or a push button to set up to bypass it to on or off. Meaning like if you had, say, your parking lot lights, you had a bypass switch to bypass the lights on. You could use that same thing to bypass the lights off. So day schedule in. Now this comes from the actual global data. It's the days it's pulling in. Now demand shed. I kind of talked about that for a second. So demand shed is going to be your KW demand shedding. This would be used if you were shedding lights, HVAC, even cases, I guess, if you had like a high energy usage peak time and you needed to kill some KW in order to reduce the load in the building or like a load on the generator, you could do that. Enable, um, you would use this if you were going to enable or disable the schedule. So in here we have outputs. So output would be what you are going to, whatever the schedule is going to turn on and off. So if it's a lighting contactor, it's going to be there. Schedule output, same thing. You could use that also. Bypass state is a writable output that'll turn something on or off when it's in bypass. And then, or if you're you're tying it to some application. Day schedule out, same thing. This main TUCOS, not really sure what that is. So let's hit the question mark and see. So main TUCOS, time until change of state. This is a main time that has elapsed since the last change of state. Okay, so that's just stating the time of the last state change. So scheduled TOS, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the time in which a schedule change has happened. So that would be, if you were tying that to a sensor control, flexible combiner, analog status, same thing. That's a writable point. Okay, so now we have our first event. So event 1 would always be off or on, and then a time. So we'll say off at 10, or we'll say 2200. And then we'll say on at 5 a.m. Okay, then you pick your days. So for the days, you just got to match the letters. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are for some crazy reason, Friday, and Saturday is A. So now this will turn off the relay at 2200, so 11 p or 10 p.m. and back on at 5 a.m. Now you could make a second schedule that does something else. So you could make it to, if you got to do a second schedule, you could do that. So we'll say on at, actually, no, we'll say off. Let's try to keep it consistent. So say like a different department closed at 9 p.m. They got in at 4 a.m. And it was just Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay, so we go back to our previous tab. Okay, so you have a maintenance override. So you could choose a date for a maintenance override. So say if you have a maintenance override that you want to put in here. So if you hit the enter date, will start date in which a time schedule will start ignoring its standard events and follow its maintenance overrides. So this would be good if say once a week you have to do like parking lot light checks. So once a week, I'd say like Tuesday morning at 9 p.m. you could tell it to ignore the parking lot schedule for an hour, and it could be used to actually show what lights are out in the parking lot. So let's talk about all the things you could do with lighting schedules. I'll use lighting schedules to cycle reset on subcoolers. So the subcooler EEV needs to be reset, once a night. So at midnight, I'll reset it for 5 minutes. So I'll go over, make a time schedule, call it EEV reset. I actually think I have one. So if we hit the back button here, so we go to subcooler. So this is off right now. It would be wired normally open. So when it closes, it causes a pump down. So the way this is set up is at 2350 and 2355, the subcooler shuts down for 5 minutes. It goes into pump down every day at basically midnight at 11:50. It's going to go into pump down and it's going to reset the EV. You can use this for lights, exhaust fans. I use schedules for lighting. I'll make like a main store lighting schedule, a bakery lighting schedule, different department lighting schedules depending on when they come in. I mean, if you can kill lights for an extra hour, that's all energy savings you have. Same thing if you could kill prep rooms. I'll do this a lot. I'll do like a setback on a prep room, use a time schedule. So, like, say if I have a prep room that is occupied and they're cutting meat at 5 a.m. and at 6 p.m. they're out of there. Well, if I raise that prep room up like 5 to 8 degrees, that's just energy we're saving. So I will use that float in order to shift the set point. So say if I have electronic EEV, I'll use that time schedule and I will shift the set point on the prep room up 5 to 10 degrees. Just instead of having it at 50, I'll have it at 60. And then when they come in the morning, like a half an hour before they start cutting meat, I'll shift the time. I'll shift the prep room temp back down. This helps with load. Okay, so in the heat of the day, so say they're not cutting meat at 4 or 5 p.m., you could shed a decent amount of load by cutting back the prep room. And the same thing with KW usage. If your KW usage gets too high, you may demand shed the prep room temperature and drop the prep room temp, or raise the prep room temp up. So that's one thing you can do with lighting schedules. So I'll take you through a quick overview on UltraSite. It's a little bit easier to set them up. So if we go, we'll sync up the site real quick because I just added that on the actual E2. So site synchronization. You got to do that every time. We go down to time schedules. Edit application. So right here, you have number of scheduled events. You can change that, like I said, change it to 2. So if you go to your inputs, you have your day schedule in that's automatically put in from the E2. You have your bypass inputs, your bypass to on, bypass to off, emergency override. You have your outputs. So you have your output, your schedule output. I usually use schedule output for whatever I'm doing. And with that, you could either make it a point or board point you could drive, or you could write it to another application. Like I said, I use this a lot for, forcing a relearn. So say like once a month or once a week, I may relearn the suction group. You could do that. You could use it to cycle EPRs. You could use it to zero out valves. So there's a lot you could use the time schedule for. And then you could use these as a countdown, this main TUCOS. Not one I use a whole lot, but you could use it as a countdown for a flexible combiner. So it's standard events. So like I hear, so we can go off at 2200 and then on at 2300. Okay, then you could, with these you could do drop downs. It's a lot easier. So on UltraSite you could just do drop downs. You could select then you go to dates. So you have a start date and an end date where the schedule actually runs through. So, like, say on we start 27th, and this one's going to end on the 29th, then this one is going to start on the 29th and end on the 30th. So it's going to follow this schedule right here from the 27th to the 29th, and then it's going to follow this schedule here from the 29th to 30th. So you could change your dates. So, like, if you had to say you wanted to throw a lighting schedule in there for Christmas Eve or Christmas, and you wanted to shut it down for holiday, you could do that, or you could assign the holidays inside the E2, and it'll automatically do that for you. So if we go to maintenance overrides in here, you have the same thing. You have a start date, you have an end date, and you have a time, and you have an event, so you can make it on or off. And then right here, you actually have your lighting, all your lighting, or I'm sorry, your input output status. So I'll show you this on graphical status to be a little easier. So we don't have a graphical status, we just have a status. So lighting, the output is not active. It says it's Thursday. So if it was active, it would be only active on 11 p.m. So that's how it's doing it. My time and date's all off on the Z2. I never reset it, and I've changed the type about 14 times here in the last month and a half. So that is how we go through and set it up. So that is a brief overview on time schedules, guys. Thanks for watching.